What's going on, guys? Welcome to October's episode of Plus Club, the show where we play the games offered to us on PlayStation Plus throughout the month, and at the end of the month, we talk about it. My name's Seth.
I'm Chevy.
And first off, I want to welcome anybody who's visiting us from Reddit. Make yourselves at home and hit the subscribe button if you enjoy this episode. Also, we got a couple quick reminders I got to get through as we near the end of the month, which is our game of the month, or not game of the month. Our game of the month is Dauntless. Make sure to play that and come back tomorrow. We'll be talking about that for game of the month. Let us know what we thought of that game. We'll let you know what we thought of it. Also, vote GOTM, game of the month, in the comments below. We're running out of time. When November starts, you won't be able to vote anymore. So, well, you'll be able to vote, but you're not going to be able to vote for new games. So, do that. Also, before we talk about The Last of Us Remastered and Mlb the Show 19, which are the games we played on PlayStation Plus this month, we got our new games already announced for November, which is Neo and Outlast 2. What do we think about those games?
I think it is a convenient excuse for me to actually play Neo. I did.
Yeah, you already own it.
Yeah, I bought it and I didn't play it. And then
It's really good.
Outlast 2.
You can probably just watch me play it.
Excited.
Yeah, you can probably just watch me play it. This is another month where we're getting, well, aside from MLB the Show, another month where we're just getting games that I already own. So I'm okay with that. I love Neo. I beat it already. I'll definitely play it again. Maybe play some co-op with you. So that'll be exciting and fun to do. And then Outlast 2, I own it. I got about halfway through it and just stopped playing it for whatever reason. So it's pretty cool. It feels tonally different than the original Outlast, and I know a lot of people had issues with that. But from what I experienced, it seemed pretty cool. So I will be interested in finally beating it. I think it's like a 6 or 8 hour game. So
Okay.
no big deal. Yeah. So should be. It seems like PlayStation has been doing really good most of the months this year.
Yeah.
Because I mean that's a good month in my opinion. This month, well, we'll talk about it. But yeah. Let's know in the comments though. What do you guys think about Neo and Outlast 2? Are you guys excited? Are you not? And yeah. Also, quick reminder that we got Discord link down below. You can talk to us anytime, all time, and we're on iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast platforms if you prefer to listen to us in audio form. Chris isn't here. He will be back when he's back, and when he does come back, he will give us his opinions on the PlayStation Plus games, and also, I don't think he's gonna be able to make it for Game of the Month as well. So we're just gonna have to have a little separate Chris episode, I guess.
That's a work life.
Yeah. That's the Klopening. Chris Klopen. That's his new name. German name, I'm assuming. Yeah, so let's just jump into Plus Club. Let's get this shit started. We're going to start out, I think, with the easier topic, which is MLB the Show 19. If you didn't get a chance to play it, it's a stickball game. It's a baseball game. A genre I have not visited in a long time. In it, you get to pick your favorite baseball teams and go to your favorite stadiums and play baseball. Is there anything I'm missing, storyline wise?
Well, it takes place in multiple areas around the world.
Yeah.
And no, no, I think you pretty much got it.
Yeah. So we both played it this month. Admittedly, I played as much as I felt like I needed to, and then I went on with my life. But yeah, let's jump into impressions. I'll jump in first. So oh man. Okay. So just for some backstory, you're probably looking at me and you're like, that guy plays a lot of sports. Not really. I don't play a whole lot of sports. Honestly, I'm not a big sports person at all. Like when you think of like quintessential gamer guy, that's me. I like video games. I don't play sports. I don't pay attention to them. People are like, oh, what'd you think of the game? I'm like, I don't know. What'd you think of it? I'll listen to you. Or they're like, hey, you like football? No. That's me. So it's been a long time since I played a baseball game. I think the last baseball game I played that I have memories of is one for Sega Genesis when we were kids. And I enjoyed playing that when I was a kid, honestly. But I just liked hitting the ball and like seeing like how far I can knock it, if I can get it out of the park or not. So it's been a long time. I'm aware of where games are going and what's going on in gaming and stuff. So I've paid attention to the sports games that come out or whatever. But having to actually play this has been interesting because not only am I checking out, the 2019 edition of this series, I'm also getting to catch up with where that genre went because it's one of the only genres that is like not on my radar at all. I don't know where it's gone, where the technology is, how good these games look, blah, blah, blah. So in that respect, it's been kind of interesting to visit this game. And in that sense, it's about exactly what I thought it was going to be. I mean, there's not like a whole lot you can do with a game that already has existed forever, has its rules, You're not going to evolve the rules of baseball. So in that sense, I'm like, okay, so what have they done with the graphics, maybe the systems, all that kind of stuff, and it's about what I expected. So you play baseball. I think it plays decently for what it's supposed to do. One thing I did really appreciate about it is when you're doing the tutorial, which I did do because I'm not up to scratch on my baseball rules anymore. It has like 4 different control schemes for everything you do in the game. So when you're batting, when you're pitching, when you're fucking running around in the field, looking at the sky and shit, there's 4 different control schemes for each one of those things. Now that's really neat for me because I got to kind of like tailor it to what felt best for me as a person who's playing a video game. But also I kind of like that idea because there's people who are probably super into baseball who probably aren't like huge gamers, but they still want to like go home and play some baseball or whatever. Yeah. And so they can kind of find how they want to play it too. So I thought it was actually kind of genius. I can't think of a whole lot of games that actually do that a whole lot. Like the closest thing I can think of is like remapping your controls in a game, but they had different like mechanics.
I'll say there's a handful of games that'll let you like have character controls versus vehicle controls.
Yeah, but even then you're switching the buttons, whereas this had like one was like a meter, the other one was like this weird thing you had to pull back and push. Like it had completely different ways to play the game, but do the same action, which I thought was kind of interesting in the sense of like if you're playing this competitively against someone, is there one of those ways to play that's better than the other ones? That was the first thing I thought of. I was like, is this game breaking? But I thought it was kind of neat that I could find the way I wanted to play this game. There isn't a way to do it, which I thought was really kind of crazy. You didn't experience that? No. Yeah, I got to pick and I did that. So, I mean, I'm going to give them extra points just in that regard because I think that's a really cool way to go about doing this. But I kind of see why, because the demographic of people who like baseball might vary, like I said, in their how much they play video games. And so it makes sense for them to try and tailor an experience that more people will want to play. So it's really smart, and I appreciated it. Graphically, I figured it'd look better, honestly.
Yeah.
That's not a knock at it. I mean, there's a bunch of games out there that look fine. It looks fine, but I figured, the genre can't evolve that much, so you'd probably assume they'd be like fucking putting a lot of work into those graphics, making it look better and better and better. And I wasn't impressed, but it's whatever. That's my own expectation. They didn't owe me shit on that, so it was just kind of an observation.
I honestly wonder what the budget is on a game like that.
I feel like it's got to be huge. Well, but at the same time, they could save a lot of money too.
Madden's budget is huge.
Yeah,
but I don't know as many people who play baseball games.
But I mean, they've been making this for a while.
I'm not saying it's not profitable.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I don't think it has the same kind of budget that. I don't know. It could just be the dev team, but
yeah, I have no idea. I mean, wrestling makes a lot of money, and the newest one that just came out is a shit show.
Sorry,
and it looks worse than the 2017 version of it.
I would say I remember someone showing like the graphics from the last one, and it actually looked really good. So
yeah, so I mean, this could be a bad year as well. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just an observation I made. I of course played as the Mariners, go home team. I'm not, I don't really care about that stuff, but I had to try it out.
I know that name.
Fuck, I don't remember what our stadium's called now anymore.
It changed.
Yeah. Cause I was going, yeah. I saw it. I'm like, oh, it says Mariners. And then it went over and it's like T-Mobile. I'm like, I don't know what that is. And I kept going. I was like, wait,
yeah, that's
T-Mobile Stadium?
Used to be Safeco.
Yeah. I'm used to Safeco. So, and yeah, I hit the ball. That was fun. I pitched. That was fun. Anytime the ball left the bat, and I had to go catch it, I wasn't having as much fun. Watching people run from base to base and throwing it to stop them or get them out, that's okay. And yeah, I mean that's about as much as I experienced and as much as I observed. To have fun, this game reminded me that there are games out there that are not for me, and this game I don't think is for me. It's a personal preference, so I'm trying to be objective in what I experienced. One thing I do want to give them as well, though, is they have a kind of like 16-bit-esque version that's like a old-timey video game.
I saw. I didn't like mess with it.
Where
but I
like
saw
the
it.
batter's sitting there and like when you move him around on the plate, like he fucking slides, his feet don't move and shit, and everything's really cheesy looking. I had more fun playing that.
Yeah, I think the way, because you had brought up Genesis before, and I think it was just fun because it felt like a video game. As for they're trying to feel like sports now.
Simulations
So,
and
yeah.
stuff, yeah. And I already don't play it. So
Yeah.
I mean, like you're simulating a thing I'm not too interested in. But overall, everything seemed fine. I don't know. I have no reference. So if like I'm not coming from an older version of this game and going like, oh, it's better now, or it's gotten worse. So everything seemed to work fine for me. I didn't have any bugs or any problems with the game at all. So yeah, it's my impressions.
Okay.
I apologize for anybody who's like super into baseball and what I said didn't do much for you, but it's just how I feel.
Oh yeah. No, and like you, I'm not into sports at all. I did enjoy baseball when I was like really young, but that's like over 30,
Chevy played.
it's like 30 years ago at this point. So
He's a sport player.
I did some dabbling in some sports.
Wrestling.
And
You wrestled.
Well, actually,
Soccer.
wrestling was the one that taught me I'm not competitive.
Yeah. No, it would. That would.
So yeah, started the game up, and like Seth said, and I've just said as well, I'm not really into sports, so I didn't have like any expectations. I have no back reference, nothing when playing this game. And the first thing I kind of noticed when I got in there is I was a little lost with the menus and stuff because I wasn't sure like where to go, what to play, and stuff like that. So I initially, I think, opened. They give you a bunch of like card decks, and you get to unlock some new players and equipment and stuff like that. And I don't know any of these people, so it was hard for me to get excited about what I was getting because I don't know who they are.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah,
It's kind of cool. It's like baseball cards, though.
no, it's super nostalgic in that sense.
Yeah.
And I think it's a neat idea, though it is kind of just loot boxes.
Yep. Who publishes this?
It's Sony.
It's a Sony game?
It's a Sony.
Oh,
game.
weird.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I also, just because I didn't have reference to this game, I did look up a few reviews on it, and according to the few I watched, they said this is one of the better ones in the series. And
That's cool. You did research.
They improved the defense in this version was a big like addition, I guess. So
Interesting.
I don't know. I like I said, no reference, but I got to at least find out that the version we played apparently was received well. So at least in that regard. I mostly dabbled in the simulation mode. I didn't do a whole lot of the actual playing. I did more of the management stuff because I wanted to see what that was like. And I thought it maybe would like pique my interest because I like micromanagement systems and
Be
stuff
more
like
of a
that.
game for you.
Yeah. And so I went through the entire like draft season and like injury reports and salaries and stuff like that. And let me tell you, I would bankrupt a fucking team real quick in real life.
Me too.
And it's overall I thought it was a really kind of neat idea, and there's multiple ways to like participate in the games, and it gives you time estimates. So if you have like on a time crunch, there'll be one that takes like 5 minutes, there's one that takes like 15, 20, and there's another one that takes like 45 plus. And that's your involvement in managing during a game. You can also just if you're in a big hurry, you can just go auto, and it just gives you results instantly without actually having to see the game itself.
Cool.
So
That's for those like fantasy football type people.
it's exactly that kind of thing.
That's interesting. Type people, like they're
but
like some fucking weird group of people.
That's 4 different ways to get through the game though, which I thought was really interesting. They had that many
Kinda
options.
like with the control scheme thing I was talking about.
Yeah,
They're
so
really trying to like, if you're into baseball, there's something there for you to do.
one, it's kind of cool too because there's a toggle for like automatic or manual on a lot of stuff. Like you want injuries to be handled by you, or do you want the computer to do it? Do you want the roster every day to be handled by you or automatically? So that was kind of an interesting experience. And though I bankrupted my team, I almost won the World Cup at the end. So that was kind of neat. But my advertisers weren't helping keep my team afloat. So I think I ended up at negative like some odd $1 billion by the end of the season. So it was dumb.
Chump change.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I don't have a whole lot more to really add to it. In the footage I watched of the gameplay and a little bit, I saw in the management mode, like you said, the graphics are kind of they work. Nothing super spectacular in that regard, but they're not awful either. I don't really have any like strong feelings one way or the other. That was the problem.
That's the worst. I'd rather bitch about this game or talk it up. Yeah, and just go like
it's hard. It just kind of exists.
Exactly. Yeah, which is really rough. Like this is a really rare thing for us because typically we have more of a opinion on a game than this. But this is, like I said, this is a genre that I'm just like not connected with in any way.
Right.
So,
I mean, I'm so disconnected that when I was doing the management mode and I was recruiting team members, I had to Google the position abbreviations because I didn't know who the hell I was hiring. So, and what they were supposed to be doing. So yeah, I don't know. I felt very lost.
Yeah, I just went in there and I was hitting the ball. And I was throwing the ball.
Probably was easier than what I was
catching
doing.
the ball. It wasn't that easy, man. I was getting my ass kicked. Honestly, I was just like, all right, I'm just gonna hit the ball and then fucking swinging and swinging and swinging, knock it behind me and shit. It was fucking stupid.
This is something we probably should have like Cody for.
Probably.
Yeah.
Or fucking maybe Mike or something.
I don't know if he does baseball. But if it was
Sure, he
Madden,
knows more about
be-
it than I do.
Oh, probably. But I would say if it was Madden, Mike would love it.
Yeah,
So.
probably. Fucking just yelling at me about it. Jump into recommendations next, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Like I fucking forgot how we're even doing this. Okay. So, are you anything else you want to say on that?
No, I could probably like struggle to find other things to
No,
say.
let's
but,
not do that.
Yeah.
Because then we're just gonna we're wasting time at that point. I would recommend this to people who like sports games and baseball. Maybe micromanagement.
I was gonna say if you're into simulation stuff, the management mode is pretty cool in that regard. And then this is gonna be a weird one, but if you're into collecting stuff, the being able to open a pack of cards and like see what players and like baseball bats and like other gear you can get, though it is literally just loot boxes. But if you're okay with that, it's probably exciting in the same way gambling is. So
Yeah. Yeah, and if you're somebody who's dabbled in like fantasy leagues online, I feel like you could definitely get into this. But all the people I would recommend this to, I guarantee have already played it.
oh yeah.
So it's like Madden. Like if you're talking to someone who's into football, I wouldn't go, "Hey, I think you should play Madden," because they're probably like, "No shit, I play it every year."
Well, it's funny too because earlier when you were talking about there's a type of person that plays these and doesn't. When I worked in gaming retail, there were people who'd come in and all they had to trade in or buy was sports games. That's all they did. So
It's definitely a specific demographic, and then I know people who like dabble with it and everything I'm playing as well. So
yeah,
it's really interesting. And then I know people like us who just don't touch them at all. In fact, it's most people I know. I know people who didn't even download this month. So
yeah. I mean, obviously we have to try it. But
yeah, for sure. I don't even think they claimed it though, which I claim like every game because I'm just like,
I'll say I hit the claim button and everything just in case.
someone hands you something, I'm just like, okay, yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah, I'll take ownership of that for a moment.
Yeah. Because who knows? Fucking someday someone's going to be like, hey, you want to play baseball? And be like, well, you can. I'll download it for you. I'm going to go find something else to do with my time. Yeah. Anything else you want to recommend?
No.
Yeah, it's rough.
Yeah.
This is the most deflated I've ever felt on Plus Club.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's really exciting for people to watch right now.
It sucks. I feel bad. Like I got nothing to say. So let's just move forward. I'm gonna grade this a C, passing grade. Originally I was gonna give it a C minus out of my own disinterest of it, but objectively I feel like it does everything it's supposed to do correctly. Plus I think it's smart in the ways that it tries to be accessible to, I feel like, everybody. And in that, I have to give them some credit. So I'm giving them a flat out C. It's a passable game. I'm sure people who are into this would probably give it a higher grade. They probably enjoy it a lot more. But like I said, objectively, looking at it as a video game, I think it does everything it should do. So yeah, C.
I'm unfortunately going to mirror you because it is really a passing game. I ran into no bugs. It works fine. It doesn't look awful. I just don't find enjoyment in it. And so, yeah, working game, it's a C.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's 2 C's from us. We'll see what Chris gives it when we talk to him. Let us know in the comments, though. What do you think about MLB The Show 19? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Have you played this series for a while? Is this one of the better ones? What would you grade it? And yeah, what other sports games do you play? And is there one you would recommend me to try over this? Any sports games? What are your favorites? Let me know in the comments below.
Yeah, what's a good introduction for someone who's not into sports games?
NFL Blitz for N64.
NBA Jam. And buy a bucket.
Fuck yeah. Yeah. Those are the good ones. Those are the ones I like because there's like fire and weird shit. I'm like, yeah. Bum, 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 bum. Okay. Second game we played this month. Hopefully this will change up the tone of the episode a bit. Was The Last of Us Remastered. In case you didn't get a chance to play it or you weren't around in the last couple of years since it came out, I think in 2014 originally on the PS3.
Sure.
I think it's been around for a while. It is a third-person action survival horror game where you play as a character named Joel in a post-apocalyptic world where you... Should we just jump into spoilers? I feel like most people have probably played it by now.
I think it's going to be impossible to share my opinion of this game without spoilers.
Okay, we're going to be spoiling this, so if you have not played it, I would highly, highly, highly suggest you go and play this very good game. I'm showing my cards a bit there. But I talk about this game all the time. Yeah, where you play as a guy, Joel, in the post-apocalyptic world, Boston, where you have to essentially try and escort a girl, Ellie, to a group of people called the Fireflies because she has immunity to essentially the cordyceps that are infecting people all over the world. Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of things that go on in that story, but it's essentially you taking her there.
It is a glorified escort mission.
Yeah, yeah. Although I don't like the way that sounds because I love this game. So
No, it's very flat, but I mean that is as basic as it gets.
yeah. This is one of those games that you have trouble playing. You're not big on the survival horror genre, but you have seen me beat this like many times.
See, a lot of it's just the stress of it.
Yeah, for sure. It's not your thing. It is 100% my thing. I've beaten this game many times. I did not beat it this month, but I did play it for a while. I played the multiplayer and stuff like that. So I guess I'm just jumping in my what?
Well, I was gonna say I've watched you play it twice, and I've watched someone on YouTube play through it once. So I've seen this game in its entirety three times.
You know the game. You just haven't had much hands-on experience with it. Yeah, so I'm just gonna jump into my. Well, actually, no, I started last time, so I'll let you jump into it. What were your impressions of The Last of Us Remastered on the PS4?
I would just invite you to jump in whenever you want. Sure. Obviously. So I think it's, first off, I gotta say, I think it's crazy that Naughty Dog made this game for PS3 at the end of the PS3's life cycle, and re-released it on PS4, and it looks like it belongs there. So, it is a very good-looking game. It also has a very, does a very convincing job of portraying the areas they're in and the detail in them and stuff. It just in typical Naughty Dog fashion is a very detailed game, and it's something that I think needs to be emphasized anytime they make a game at this point, because no one else does it like they do in that regard. The beginning of this game was kind of interesting for me, just because like a lot of games, story heavy games, whatever, usually start off in the role or in the position that you'll be playing in. And this game really kind of just like wants to take its time and set up how horrible the world is, and just doing the stuff inside of your house as you play as Sarah, right? Joel's daughter.
Yes.
Is it's just kind of really interesting, especially because you get to kind of feel their dynamic, their humor with each other, and then as he comes coming through the sliding glass door, and like the tension starts to build, and you start going through the entire like the scene of them like Tommy showing up, and they get in the car, and they're trying to get through town, and the chaos that just ensues. You kind of start just like slowly, you feel the tension more and more and more. The camera always pans really well to show you what they're looking at while they're speaking. They're having a full dialogue, and they look like they're having a dialogue in the front seats while you're in the back, and you're like going from window to window, and you're just immersed right at this point.
It does a really good job on sucking you in early on. I remember the first time I ever played it, it just came out. I was so excited to play it because I'm a big Naughty Dog fan, and I put it in, I'm playing it, and as it's starting, within like 5 minutes, I said out loud, "You're watching me play it." I'm like, "This is one of my favorite games ever made."
Yeah,
Like I already knew. As soon as I started playing, I was like, "I love this game already," and I wasn't wrong by the time I beat it.
for sure.
One thing I want to throw in, since you're talking about the beginning of the game, it is a really, really hard thing to try and invest people in characters right when something starts. It's really fucking difficult because you haven't had time to be around them. That whole scene does a good job on giving you so much exposition and detail on Joel and his daughter's dynamic. He works a lot. He comes home late a lot. She waits around for him sometimes, whatever. They get along. They have a good relationship, but obviously he's gone a lot. But you get a sense that, he loves her or whatever. There's a lot that's packed into those early scenes that when it gets to the point where, like I said, we're talking spoilers, she ends up dying.
Yes.
They're able to get, specifically with me, an emotional reaction, which is really difficult because I watch any other movie or game, and if you try and kill off a character and make me feel bad about it within the first like fucking 20 minutes, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Doesn't work typically for me because all I can do is go, yeah, it's sad that happened. The scenario is a sad scenario.
Right.
But when I played that part, it showed me, it sets the tone. It gives you an introduction to what happened prior in his past, but it gives you a sense that nobody's safe and things are going to get worse. And what can be lost, which in my opinion is probably one of the ultimate losses you could ever suffer, is your child dying, especially in a scenario that she dies in this game.
Yeah.
Which is fucking horrific because they escape the threat, but there's also a new threat. This fucking soldier who's aware of what's happening, they don't know, and fucking is told to kill them.
Right.
It's a really fucked up scene, but they're able to put so much emotional investment within that time that it's very impressive.
Yeah, no, for sure. And the thing I want to add to that scene as well is between the way that like Naughty Dog mocap the whole game, but that there's the scene, the facial expressions, when you see on Joel's face that he knows what's about to happen, and his face just like you see like just drop, and then Troy Baker's performance as Joel, I completely was just in belief of that situation.
Sure, all the actors in the game are fantastic.
Yeah, and like you, I can hear about, see things that are supposed to be emotional that are emotional for some, and a lot of times just acknowledge that it is that. But I did feel something in that scene very, very strongly. So
well, yeah, but that's my point though. Is I'm not talking about in general. I'm talking about in the beginning. A lot of movies and stuff will try and go, "Oh, their mom died," and everybody most likely has a mom or can at least understand losing your mom would suck. But you're only feeling bad because the idea of that is sad. For instance, Guardians of the Galaxy, right in the beginning of it, spoiler for that movie, you haven't seen it, his mom dies or whatever. And there's people going like, oh, we didn't know her. We don't know him.
yeah,
This is just like, oh shit, that sucks. Someone losing their mom. And then it goes right from that into like some like fucking fun music and shit. And it's just like tonally off.
Right.
Whereas this, in a short amount of time is able to create this scenario that's just horrific feeling. Sure. And that's really hard to fucking pull off. So yeah, it's not just like in general, like, you know, if someone goes like sad scene, this is sad, whatever. It's that they were able to do it so quickly. It's fucking crazy that they're able to do that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and then, yeah, so just after that, obviously you go through to where you get to the point, obviously, where you see Joel in the world in which you're going to be playing in, and the scenarios and whatnot. And yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think of how to word it without just emphasizing constantly how good everything looks all the time. So
yeah. Well, I'm about to say, you don't got to tell the whole story either. Just like what you think of the game.
I just appreciate that the pacing is constantly good. The voice acting is 100% spot on the entire game. It always looks good. The music is always good and loud at the right points and quieted back down at the other points. I can't think of anything about the game I think is bad. And I didn't play it, so obviously I can't speak from that. But watching it as a piece of just media, I was completely invested and involved through the entirety of the game. So,
where do I start? Okay, so just gonna say I love this game. I love it. I think it's one of my favorite games of all time. I know it is one of my favorite games of all time. I have a lot of them, but it's definitely there. So revisiting it was definitely a pleasure. I love it to death. It's like if someone asked me if I want to play Metal Gear Solid again, I'd be like, fuck yeah. This game is the pinnacle, in my opinion, of AAA development, even if it is getting older now. At its time, at its prime, it was the best you could get in third-person storytelling and quality, and I still think it holds up really well now. It is starting to show its age a bit in some of its level design, but other than that, it still looks fantastic. Fuck. Okay, so I don't know where. Okay, so the story I think is fantastic. I think it's really smart. One thing that I really appreciate about the setting and the story of The Last of Us is that it takes something similar to what a zombie game would be and try something different. And the only other thing I can think of that has done something similar to that is 20 Days Later, which is a movie that I love. They take this idea of some kind of outbreak, some kind of situation where people can get infected and become threats, and they do it their own way. And they do the cordyceps thing, which is related to cordyceps that get in ants' heads and turn into zombies, essentially. And there's so much lore there that I love. The whole progress of getting the cordyceps in you, essentially turn into an enraged person. You let that sit around for like, what is it, like a year? And then your head splits open. You turn into a clicker. You can't see anymore, but you start like using echolocation to move around. And then the big boomer type dudes, I forgot what they're called.
Bloaters.
Those are, if that fucking clicker had been around for 10 years, I think it's 10 years or whatever, they turn into that fucking thing. And then the cordyceps starts, because it's aged so long, it's become harder and stuff. Like there's all this lore to the enemies that aren't just like, that's the dude with the minigun, that's the dude with the shotgun. There's this whole event that happened that's just so fucking interesting. But it's not just about that, it's about the characters, and that's where the story is really its strongest. Joel and Ellie are some of my favorite characters in gaming. I know a lot of people share that opinion with me. It's interesting. I had a conversation recently with somebody. I won't mention their name because I don't know if they want to be talked about or not. But we're talking about The Last of Us, and it had come up. He's like, "Oh, you like The Last of Us?" I'm like, "Oh, I love The Last of Us." And he's like, "Well, I thought it was kind of manipulative." I was like, "Oh, you do?" I was like, "That's interesting." And we started talking about it a bit. And I asked him if he beat it. Never beat it. And I told him you should definitely beat it. But he was saying that the beginning's manipulative because it's trying to make you feel something. And he could tell it's going to do that. And I was like, I think everybody could tell that for sure. But I feel that it is absolutely trying to get a response out of you. But I had to really push that one of the biggest things that this game is trying to accomplish in that beginning scene is pivotal. It's very important that beginning part of the game happens is that Joel was somebody, had to evolve from that event on to survive. He still survived. So even through all that suffering, he survived, but it had to have hardened him at some point. He's introduced to a new situation that he does not want to be a part of. And so you already know where it's probably going to go. It's absolutely inspired by things like The Road, by like Children of Men, stuff like that. Stories I fucking love, movies I love. And it's really important to his character that, and his development with Ellie that that happens. So whereas he's saying the beginning is just trying to get an emotional response, I agree with that. But at the same time, it's an investment.
Especially for the end.
Because, well, not even just for the end, for the whole journey. There's like 3 or 4 scenes in that game that are like the obvious ones, but also like conversations that I'll get like fucking emotional and teary-eyed from just listening to it. That's from the journey of these 2 characters and their connection with each other growing reluctantly. Like he wants nothing to do with her. She really has no reason to want anything to do with him because she doesn't know who the fuck he is. But, you know, through circumstances, they become connected. But then, of course, at the end, you have to make that decision. Well, you don't. He does. Makes a decision to save her against his, you know, he knows that she could, like, you know, fix everything.
Yeah.
And he decides selfishly to save her for himself, essentially.
Right.
And that shakes shit up at the end, which reminds me a lot of like No Country for Old Men.
Yeah.
The ending of that. But anyway, it's so hard to talk about this game because there's so much to it. But yeah, so I love this story. It's really well written. Has a lot of dynamic to it. I love how it is based on seasons. I think it's a really cool way to tell a story. Really impactful scenes that will transition from one season to the next, particularly with Henry and Sam. When that happens, really fucking intense. And it's such a perfect fucking transition to the next season. And yeah, the whole journey is fantastic. I love the idea of going from Boston, even when you're in Boston, traveling from the beginning point to trying to get closer to the capital, and you're seeing it getting closer or whatever. Almost reminds me of like Dark Souls in the sense of like seeing things out in the distance and getting closer and closer and closer to it. And it has a really good pace to it. There's a good feel to the journey that's a struggle. You meet characters, you lose characters. Every character feels like they're they have a background. They've lived and existed in this world. Bill is a really interesting character who just like is kind of an asshole, but he knows what he's doing. He doesn't want to have anything to do with people. And he's just like living on his own in this like fucking trap town and shit. Like, it's really cool. You run into other characters who end up like dying and you feel bad for every single one of them, but it's part of the journey. And there's so many cool dynamics gameplay wise. This is where I think things get mixed up a bit. So most people can admit they like the story outside of the one person I talked to who said it felt manipulative, which I don't even blame him for feeling that way. I understand where he's coming from. I would still urge him to beat it. Most people would say they like the story. I think it'd be hard to deny that unless you're just not into that kind of story. But the gameplay is where people get mixed on, because there are people out there who think that the game is very basic feeling. I don't agree, but I have a background in liking survival games. So the whole looking around for stuff and crafting, I love that shit in a lot of games, but also stealth. And I love stealth games. So this game, gameplay wise, is like right up my alley. It was made for me. So not only do I like the story of the game, and the characters, but I like the gameplay a lot too. It's a stealth game where you are looking around for items, and it came out around the time that a lot of games were like trying to be about like scavenging around and looking for shit and surviving. So
it does a good job of having tools for the stealth stuff too, like with the bricks and the bottles and whatnot. So
well, I mean, those are throwable objects and shit, but there's like duct tape and stuff that you find and scissors and stuff to make items.
No, I meant in the regards of like stunning an enemy or making noise and stuff like that. So
Yeah. Or like bash someone in the head with it and shit. So yeah, gameplay wise, I really like the way it plays. The gunplay is fine, but it's not supposed to, like, you're always like low on ammo anyway, so it's more of like the last resort. Like the last time I played, I barely ever used my gun. Well, I guess this month is the last time I played, but last couple times I've played, I got to the point where I was just like stealthing around almost completely and like either just going right past certain things or killing things silently and moving on. Just because it's just easier to not use your gun because it's like the last fucking oh shit button that you got. So yeah, gameplay is great. I really enjoy it, but I get when people don't like it. I only dislike when people say there's not much to the gameplay and it's simplistic. There was this thing that came out on Twitter months ago where this guy's like, he pretty much quoted that, like people saying like, oh, Last of Us is really, really fucking, really a simple game when it comes down to gameplay. And then the guy was like, is this actually The Last of Us? And it showed like Joel like hopping in a window, running, choking dude out, fucking killing dude with a knife and then shooting him and shit, like all CQC style. And I'm like, yeah, that's how you can play the fucking game. Once you get, like, a lot of people when you watch them, there's like listening and then they're like scooting a little bit and they'll listen and they scoot a little bit and it's like, but when you get good at that game, like you're like moving like fucking fluidly and shit. So yeah, I think there's just something lost in the translation of everybody's experience with that game, but when I play it a lot better than when I watch a lot of other people play, but I've beaten it multiple times. So yeah, I like the gameplay. The music's fantastic. A lot of times, like, acoustic style music isn't really my thing, but I think it really plays to the tone, the somber tone of the game. There's this down tempo energy to the whole. Everybody's just dirty and tired and fucking just surviving and trying to figure out what they're gonna do next and shit. And the music really plays to that. So in that, I really love the soundtrack to the game. That just really is like a really huge characteristic of the whole experience. Without that soundtrack, I think you would have almost a different game. It's like, I would say about a third of the experience is that fucking soundtrack. Performances are fantastic. Oh God, I forgot the girl who played Ellie. Do you remember her name?
no, I just had it though.
Anyway, her and Troy Baker do a fantastic job, but everyone in that does a great job. Even in the beginning of the game, when you're talking with Tess, the person playing her does a fucking awesome job. All the dialogue in that game is so well written. It's performed so fucking good that that when you're sitting there watching the cinematics, you're just in it. You're loving that, and then you go back to playing it, and it's a Naughty Dog game, so you're getting that dialogue as you play it. Yeah, it's just a great experience. Graphically, kind of touched on that earlier, but I think it still looks fantastic. It does look like a early PS4 game now, in my opinion. Since there's been some really crazy looking PS4 games that come out recently, like Red Dead Redemption 2 and Spider-Man and God of War and stuff. We really fucking moved ahead in this last like 2 years when it comes to graphics on the PS4, but that comes with the end of any console cycle. But it still looks great. It still looks great. It does look like a PS4 game, but it looks like an early PS4 game, in my opinion. Played the multiplayer again. I like it. I like the novelty of it. It's hard for me to stay invested in it just because it is so slow paced. But it's a cool idea. I like the idea of like sneaking around with your team, grabbing stuff to craft as you're going, and then fighting another team. But it's hard for me to stay with it. So, and plus there was people who were like level like 100 something. They were just fucking destroying me. So I was like, you guys have been here for a while. That's fine. You earned it. But it was almost impossible for me to compete against them unless I invested the time to get good. Yeah. All in all, I mean, I love every aspect of this game. I could sit here and talk about every single detail of this game. Like when you start talking about the beginning, I was ready to have a conversation about that. Every part of this game, there's so much to digest and take from and discuss. And I would just really encourage everybody, even though I'm not doing recommendations yet, to play this game or at least watch somebody else play it. This is a game that you could easily sit back and just watch, let alone play it. So, yeah, I don't know really what else to say other than, I mean, like I said, I could just dissect the whole fucking game.
Yeah.
I can't wait for The Last of Us 2. I have my own theories on what's going to happen in that. And really fucking excited for that. Can't wait to see the continuation of this story. I like it's called Part 2. It's not like 2, it's just Part 2 because it's a continuation, obviously. Yeah, I like the ending too. I am satisfied with it. I know a lot of people were mixed on it when it first came out. I don't know where people are at on it now, but I really like the way it ends, in the sense that it leaves you interpreting it and you discuss it. So at the very end, Joel tells Ellie that I forgot the exact way he puts it, but essentially he doesn't tell her what actually happened. They made it there. They were gonna essentially fucking cut her up.
Yeah.
Fucking kill her and use her to find a cure, which is the good thing to do, even though it's one life taken, which is bad. And Joel wouldn't allow that because it's funny. People always look at Joel like he's a good guy. He's not. He's a bad fucking dude. But that's why you like him. Like he has morals of like that we can identify with, but he's done horrible things surviving in that world. And he's willing to do horrible things to protect what he cares about.
When he wakes up and interrogates that guy,
Well, and then you're just killing everybody in that fucking town
just
too.
completely like doesn't.
That's the
Yeah.
old Joel that you're seeing there.
So,
Because at that point he's just looking for what he wants.
yeah.
And
Even
at the
his
end,
brother makes a comment about like that or something. He's like, I did those things for us. So
yeah, he's a bad motherfucker. Like he's the bad guy. But you identify with what he wants, and you want to protect Ellie as well. And that's why he's such a good character. There's nuance to him. He's not just the good guy. He's a bad guy with good intentions. And at the end when he essentially denies telling her what exactly happened, because Ellie would have sacrificed herself for the betterment of like mankind.
Yeah.
And Joel denied her that without even having a discussion or anything. He doesn't tell her that. And you're left with wondering if she knows that or not. Because she ends the game with saying, okay, because he tells her that. And she says, okay, but it's a really uneasy okay.
I'll say the tone. Yeah.
Yeah. So, a lot of people interpret it different ways. I interpret it as she is accepting what somebody who she cares about is telling her, but she doesn't know if she can believe him. Which is the perfect way to end that fucking game. Because this relationship you've watched grow, you see the dynamic of the two characters and how that situation was important in different ways to both of them, and how essentially that difference and how that could have been handled it leaves the game on shaky ground, which will lead into Last of Us Part 2. So, yeah, I really liked it. But I also like the end of No Country for Old Men. A lot of people hated it. So I thought it was like fucking perfect and like a masterpiece. And yeah, same thing with this. I thought it was great. So, yeah, beautiful game, beautiful experience, emotional, fantastic performances, stellar AAA development. Yeah, it's one of my favorite games of all time. So, any other impressions you got or nothing?
No.
All right, let's move into recommendations then. I'll go first. If you like Naughty Dog games, this is a must. You probably already played it. You should have already played it. Like Uncharted, all that stuff. This is like the natural evolution of Naughty Dog as a developer, doing what they do really well and trying to go in a more Uncharted is mature, but it's like popcorn mature. It's like, you go, you watch these characters you like a lot, but you're also there to have fun. Last of Us is that natural evolution of going, can we tell a deeper story? And I think they nailed it. So if you're into the games that Naughty Dog has made, you should play this. If you like survival games, I think you should check it out. If you like story-driven third-person games, you should play this 100%. I think it's one of the top ones you should have played. When people look at Sony games, they're like, well, Sony games are third-person cinematic experiences. A lot of them are, yeah, 100%. But this one is one of the best ones out there. Up there with, like, you know, the new God of War and games like that. Like, this is one of those must-plays. If you like movies, even if you don't want to play this, you could easily watch someone else play it, and I guarantee you'll like it. If you like horror games, even though I don't view this game as horror, a lot of people do. It is technically, I guess, survival horror. It's definitely more survival though, but I watch it more like a drama than or play it more like a drama than I do like a horror game. But because I'm more invested in the characters and the dynamics and stuff. But I feel like stealth games. It's hard for me as a stealth fan to recommend it to stealth fans, just because it's only a small mechanic of the whole game. But if you are like me and you want that really good story, but also enjoy stealth games, you probably already played this. You probably really like it, but you should probably check it out if you haven't. I do like the stealth mechanics. I like the hearing through walls for movement. You see their kind of silhouettes or whatever mechanic. I think it's neat. I like that the whole game is based around sound. You got anything else to add? Third person action games. I mean, honestly, I would recommend this to most people, but I know a lot of people won't dig the way it plays, because it has it's not like Uncharted. You're not running and jumping and shooting and shit. It's more like staying low and grabbing stuff and fucking crafting something to survive the next encounter.
Yeah.
Not to fucking lay waste to all the enemy. If you like zombie stuff, you've probably played this. But if you like the zombie genre, this isn't a zombie game, but it's similar in the sense that you're fighting groups of some kind of infected threat. So it's definitely worth your time.
I honestly can't think of a single thing that you didn't say. So
If you like games where you have to manage low amounts of resources to get through, like a survival game. I already said survival earlier, but some games do that better than others. Some are like survival games in the sense that, like, oh, you got to live, but you have plenty of resources. And other games are designed to, like, you got like 2 bullets, so figure it out. This game's one of those.
old school Resident Evil.
Yeah, 100%. And even Resident Evil Remake, 2 Remake, which is also fantastic. If you like multiplayer versus stuff, and you want to try something slightly different, more slow-paced, sneak-around survival-esque, I haven't played a game like The Last of Us online, so it's definitely unique and definitely worth checking out, so I would recommend that as well. Yeah, if you just like really good stories, it's a fantastic story, fantastic performances, fantastic everything, so definitely check it out. But yeah, if you can't get over the hurdle of the gameplay, if it's not your style of gameplay, watch somebody play it, because that story is fucking really good, really good.
Yeah.
Anything else? All right. Let's jump into grades. I'm gonna give an A plus. Like I said before, I love this game. It's one of my favorite games ever made. It's the best game Naughty Dog has made so far. I'm hoping and I'm confident Last of Us Part 2 will be just as good. I'm hoping. But yeah, it's so fucking good. I adore this fucking game. I love the soundtrack. I love the graphics. I love the gameplay. I love the characters to death. I love the pacing of it. I love the fucking storytelling. I love the season dynamic. I love, I think I already said the soundtrack. Everything about it is just phenomenal. And this game was like made for me. The post-apocalyptic aspect, the tragedy of it, the character building, and the emphasis on how important it is to be first and foremost in it. The stealth combat, the horror elements, the whole cordyceps enemy thing, the morality of people in scenarios like this, and it following the same path as stuff like The Road and like Road to Perdition or fucking Children Men, where not necessarily Children Men, but it's similar in that sense. Where you have a character who is essentially in a world that is an awful place and they've been surviving, but there's someone for them that they care about who is more pure, but there's going to be some point where they're not going to be there to protect them anymore, and they have to prepare them for that. They have to prepare them for the day that they're not around anymore. I love stories like that. This tells a fantastic story like that as well. And yeah, I just love it to death. A+, easy. I didn't have to think about it. I knew before we even did the month, obviously, I was going to give it an A+. So yeah, love it. Love it.
I mean, really, for a lot of the same reasons, I'm going to be rating it high as well. The only thing that is not pushing me to A+ is I can't play it.
Yeah.
So,
which I think is fair.
So I'm going to give it an A. I do think it is one of the great games.
It's one of those games of like, you look at PlayStation, you look at Metal Gear Solid, you look at Final Fantasy 7, you look at other games, you look at PS2, and you look at, whatever games or whatever. It's like on PS3, it was one of like the greats of that era.
For sure. And, I am the type of person that if I can't play something, if it has a good enough story, I don't mind like sitting and watching it. Or if there's something there, like I've watched, you play a bunch of survival horror games before, and I may not be into them like in any capacity, but I find some enjoyment in kind of experiencing it still without having to go through the stress of it myself. So
yeah.
That being said, you kind of, we've said it a billion times already. This is a full story that is very much, I would say, beyond a lot of movies.
This game shows so well that the evolution of storytelling in the sense that like movies are shorter, but they're such a visual and audio experience that you get something out of it, but a book has so much time investment in it. Video games took the best of both those worlds and they put it in one. Yeah. So it is easy for me to start comparing games to movies now.
For sure.
Because they're an evolution of it.
Well, in the same way like a well done like 10 episode show would do as well. So they used to do commercials for Uncharted where like the guy would play and the girlfriend would come with a thing of popcorn, watch and play. Realistically, that's the type of game these guys make, and this is no exception to that. So I've done it 3 times. I could do it a 4th time. I could watch this whole game all the way through because it is constantly just compelling to watch. So A.
I mean, honestly, I view it the same as I view like great movies. Like you go back, you watch like, any of the great movies that you love or ever, and you can rewatch every time. Same thing with Last of Us. It's not even like, oh man, I gotta play through that again. I'm like, fuck yeah, like that game's fantastic. I love it. So, So you give it an A. I give it an A+. Expected high grades. I figured that. And yeah. One thing I want to say too. Shout out to Neil Druckmann. I've been a fan of his forever. Uncharted 2 is the best Uncharted. He directed that. He directed The Last of Us. He's making The Last of Us Part 2. The dude obviously gets the praise that he deserves, but I do regard him very high as like one of the great game directors out there. So I really hope he can deliver on Part 2. But it's a tall fucking order. Yeah. So let us know in the comments what you guys think about The Last of Us Remastered. Did you play it? Did you not play it? If you played it this time around, is this the first time you played it, or did you play it on PS3 when it first came out? Just curious on when you started or experienced the game. What did you think of it? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Are you somewhere in the middle? What do you think about the gameplay? That's something that I hear a lot when I talk to people. Do you think the beginning of the game is manipulative? Which I think is an interesting point to make. And yeah, let me know everything you think about when it comes to The Last of Us and MLB the Show 19. Do you like sticks? Balls? Sticks, balls? That's going to do it for this episode of Plus Club. As always, thank you for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy this episode. Make sure to check out our other episodes. Check us out on Tumblr, Twitter, and Facebook at Tasty Loot Gaming. Check out my streams and show you streams. Links down below. You can watch me on Mixer, Twitch, and here on YouTube. I triple stream when I stream. I don't think I said what game was our game of the month at the beginning. That whole beginning was fucked up. Dauntless. Play Dauntless. Talk to us about tomorrow. We'll be doing game of the month tomorrow.
I don't have time to play Dauntless.
Huh?
I don't have time to play Dauntless.
If they watch the episode late, they do. Yeah, we got a Discord link down below. You can talk to us anytime, all the time. We're on iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast platforms if you prefer to listen to us. Yeah, my name's Seth.
I'm Chevy.
Until the next episode, which is tomorrow, Hell Week will be over. And yeah, we'll talk about Dauntless. Until then, have a good night, guys, and take it easy.